Okay, we've all been there, right? You're in the kitchen, you're getting ready to make dinner, you grab an onion, and the second you start chopping, bam, your eyes are on fire, tears are streaming down your face, and you're not even sad. So what on earth is going on there?
It's one of those things we just accept as a weird fact of life. But is it just some random fluke? Or is there some pretty incredible science at play? Well, today we're going to pull back the curtain and look at the surprisingly complex chemical story behind why onions make us cry.
So first thing you gotta know is that this is no accident. The onion isn't really trying to make you cry, but what it is trying to do is defend itself. What we experience as a flood of tears is basically just the collateral damage from the onion deploying its hidden chemical arsenal. Think about it. As long as an onion is just sitting on your countertop, it's completely harmless. That's because inside its cellular structure, all the key chemicals are kept in their own separate little compartments. They can't mix, they can't react. It's like a sleeping chemical giant. But the moment your knife slices into that onion, everything changes. You're literally breaking open those cells, and those chemicals that were kept apart suddenly flood out and mix together. And that, right there, kicks off an immediate and super fast chain reaction. So here's the magic moment. An enzyme called alliinase gets released, and it instantly reacts with these sulfur compounds that are also in the onion. When they meet, they create this chemical with a mouthful of a name, syn-propanolase S-oxide. And because this thing is what we call a volatile gas, it doesn't just sit there on the cutting board. It immediately launches into the air, making a beeline right for your face. And that brings us to part 2 of the story. The onion has launched its chemical missile. So how does your body fight back? Well, it turns out you've got a pretty impressive defense system of your own. Okay, so when that gas, syn-propanethyl S-oxide, reaches your eyes, it mixes with the natural moisture that's on their surface. This chemical reaction actually forms a very, very mild acid. Your eyes are incredibly sensitive, so they immediately detect this as an irritant, and that triggers your tear ducts to spring into action and flush the threat away. And this is a really important point to get. These are not emotional tears. Your brain is not processing sadness here. This is a purely physical reflex. It's an automatic, protective response that's just designed to wash away what your body sees as a threat and protect the delicate surface of your eyes. All right, so we get the science behind the attack. But now for the big question. Can we actually outsmart the onion? And the answer is a big yes. Now that we know how the whole chemical reaction works, we can figure out ways to stop it right in its tracks. But first, you ever notice how some people can chop onions all day and be totally fine, while other people are a sobbing mess after one slice? Well, it turns out a few things are at play. Some people just have more sensitive eyes, but your cutting technique and even the airflow in your kitchen can make a huge, huge difference. You know, one of the easiest fixes really just comes down to your knife. If you use a super sharp knife, it slices cleanly through the onion's cells, which means less overall damage. A dull knife, on the other hand, just crushes and mangles the cells, releasing a much bigger flood of those chemicals. And, you guessed it, a lot more of that irritating gas. So here are your 5 best strategies to fight back. First, chill the onion for a bit. That slows down the chemical reaction. We already know a sharp knife is your best friend. Improving airflow, like with a fan, can literally blow the gas away from you. You can even try cutting it underwater, which traps the gas completely. And hey, if all else fails, a physical barrier like a pair of goggles, it works every single time. So we've talked about the what and the how, but let's just zoom out for a second and explore maybe the most fascinating question of all, the why. Why would onions evolve this incredibly complicated system in the first place? To put it simply, the onion is just trying to survive. This entire chemical process evolved as a defense mechanism to stop animals, pests, and microbes in the ground from eating it. That irritating gas is a brilliant evolutionary strategy to basically say, hey, go find something else to snack on. You know, this science also explains a couple of other things you might have noticed. Those sweeter onions like Vidalias, they have less sulfur in them, which means less fuel for the reaction and fewer tears. And once you cook an onion, that heat completely destroys the alliinase enzyme, neutralizing the threat. That's why cooked onions never, ever make you cry. And really, that just sums it all up, doesn't it? The next time you're chopping an onion and you feel that familiar sting in your eyes, you'll know exactly what's happening.
It's just a perfect example of how a seemingly mundane, everyday task is actually powered by some absolutely amazing and honestly pretty elegant science. So, it really just leaves us with one final thought. You are now armed with the knowledge to conquer the crying onion. The only question left is, which of these tricks are you going to put to the test in your kitchen?